March 18, 2024. Delaware Court of Chancery. The gavel comes down. Judge Kathleen McCormick's voice cuts through the packed courtroom. Mr. Musk, this court orders you to issue a formal public apology to Dr. Vernon Unsworth. But it was too late. The story was already spreading like fire through dry grass. Over the next 72 hours, Vernon Unsworth's life became a nightmare. News outlets dug into his background. They found photos of him with Warrenin, wedding pictures from a traditional Thai ceremony, vacation shots, ordinary couple things. Headlines asked questions designed to sound innocent, but dripping with insinuation. Who is Vernon Unsworth, British expat at center of Musk controversy? Comment sections exploded. Reddit threads dissected his relationship. Facebook groups shared conspiracy theories. Some people defended him. More people didn't. Where there's smoke, there's fire, one popular tweet said. It got 14,000 likes. Vernon stopped leaving his house. Vernon stopped answering her phone. Her family in Bangkok started calling. Worried, her mother asked if she was safe. Safe from what? From Vernon? The man she loved? The man who wouldn't hurt anyone? On July 16th, Elon sent another tweet. Bet you a signed dollar it's true. That one he didn't delete. Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois. Marcus Delgado was a 19-year-old journalism student who'd become obsessed with documenting everything Elon Musk tweeted, not because he loved or hated Elon. Marcus tried to stay neutral, but because he understood that history was being written in real time on social media, and most of it was disappearing. Deleted tweets, edited posts, things scrubbed from the internet by PR teams. Marcus ran a project called the Tesla Archive, a comprehensive database of every Elon Musk tweet, including deleted ones. He used automated tools to capture screenshots within seconds of posting. His archive had become surprisingly popular among researchers and journalists. The pedo guy tweet was already in his database, timestamp and all. But Marcus noticed something else while reviewing the thread. In the hours before the deleted tweet, Elon had liked 3 posts about the cave rescue. One was from someone claiming to be a Thai rescue volunteer saying Vernon had been difficult to work with. Another suggested the British divers didn't want Elon's help because of professional jealousy. Marcus dug deeper. The accounts weren't bots, they were real people. But their information was oddly specific. Details about the rescue operation that hadn't been public yet. Complaints about Vernon that seemed designed to paint him negatively. Who was feeding Elon this information? Marcus created a new folder in his archive. Cave Rescue, Information Sources. He didn't know yet why it would matter, but his journalism professor had taught him when powerful people fight, always ask who's whispering in their ears. August, Vernon hired L. Lynn Wood, an Atlanta-based attorney famous for winning defamation cases. Wood was a bulldog, aggressive, media-savvy, and expensive. Vernon had to borrow money from his brother in the UK to afford him. The demand letter was simple: apologize publicly, retract the statements, or we sue. Elon's response came via his lawyers. The term pedo guy is a common South African expression meaning creepy old man. Mr. Musk grew up in Pretoria. It's vernacular, not a literal accusation. No defamation occurred. Wood sent back. South African or not, you called our client a pedophile in front of 22 million people. See you in court. For Elon, the lawsuit was one problem among dozens. Tesla's stock was dropping. The SEC was investigating him for a tweet about taking Tesla private. His relationship with the musician Grimes was falling apart under media scrutiny. He'd gone on a podcast and smoked marijuana, which caused NASA to investigate SpaceX's workplace culture. Everything was chaos. But he couldn't let the Vernon thing go. Late at night when he couldn't sleep, which was most nights, he'd think about those 12 boys in the cave. He genuinely wanted to help. The submarine had been a real engineering effort. His team had worked 72 hours straight, designing it, testing it, shipping it across the world. And it had been called a PR stunt. That hurt more than Elon wanted to admit. It made him feel like people thought he was incapable of genuine human concern. Like everything he did was calculated for attention. Like he was just a rich guy playing hero. When Vernon criticized the submarine, it felt personal. It felt like Vernon was saying, you don't actually care about those kids. You just want headlines. So Elon had lashed out in the cruelest way he could think of. Now alone in his office at 3 a.m., he wondered if maybe Vernon had been right. Not about the submarine. Elon still believed it could have worked. but about his motives. It had been partly about proving something. About showing the world that Elon Musk solves impossible problems. He opened Twitter, typed an apology, deleted it, typed another one, deleted that too. The words wouldn't come. September. Vernon filed the lawsuit, asking for $190 million in damages, $150 million in compensatory damages, $40 million in punitive damages. The number made headlines. Critics said Vernon was just after Elon's money. Supporters said that's how much it cost to repair a reputation destroyed in front of the world. Vernon didn't care about the money. He told Wood, "I want him to admit he was wrong. I want my life back." But his life wasn't coming back. The internet never forgets. Years from now, if someone Googled Vernon Unsworth, the first results would be about Elon Musk calling him a pedophile. Some damage is permanent. Vernon's mother stopped calling her. The silence was worse than the worried questions. Vernon saw Vernon crying quietly in the kitchen one night, stirring a pot of soup that didn't need stirring. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what? You did nothing wrong. I brought this to us. I should have kept my mouth shut about the submarine." Vernon turned to face him. Her eyes were red but fierce. "You told the truth. That's not a crime. He's the one who should be sorry." But sorry wasn't coming. Just legal motions and court dates, and a trial that would take 14 months to arrive. Federal Courthouse, Los Angeles, California. The courtroom was smaller than Vernon expected. He'd imagined something grand, high ceilings, dramatic lighting, like in the movies. Instead, it was just a room with fluorescent lights and uncomfortable wooden benches. But every seat was filled. Reporters from CNN, BBC, Reuters, and a dozen other outlets lined the walls with their notebooks. Judge Stephen Wilson entered, and everyone stood. He was 73 years old, appointed by President Reagan decades ago. He'd seen everything: mob trials, celebrity cases, corporate fraud. His expression suggested he was tired of all of it. Vernon sat at the plaintiff's table, wearing a suit his brother had mailed him from England. It didn't fit quite right, too tight in the shoulders. L. Lynn Wood sat beside him, perfectly composed in an expensive gray suit that probably cost more than Vernon made in 6 months exploring caves. At the defense table, Elon Musk wore his standard black blazer and black t-shirt. Next to him sat Alex Spiro, his lead attorney, a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a legal drama: sharp suit, sharp features, sharp mind. Spiro had defended some of the biggest names in entertainment and business. He didn't lose often. "Mr. Wood," Judge Wilson said, "you may present your opening statement." Wood stood. He was 68 years old, but moved like a younger man. His voice filled the courtroom, a Georgia accent that managed to sound both folksy and deadly serious. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is simple. On July 15, 2018, Elon Musk sent a tweet to his 22 million followers, now over 40 million, calling my client Vernon Unsworth a pedophile. Not in those exact words, but with a term that means exactly that. Pedo guy, said it once. Then when given a chance to apologize, he doubled down. Bet you a signed dollar it's true, he tweeted. Wood pointed at Elon. That man, one of the richest and most powerful people in the world, decided my client was a pedophile. Why? Because Mr. Unsworth criticized a submarine that never worked. Because he told the truth. And for that truth, Mr. Unsworth has endured 16 months of hell. Wood pulled out a folder. We have evidence of death threats sent to Mr. Unsworth. Hundreds of them. We have evidence that his relationship with his partner nearly ended because of online harassment. We have evidence that he can't return to the cave exploration community he loved because everywhere he goes, people whisper, "That's the guy Elon Musk called a pedophile." The jury, 12 people, ranging from a retired teacher to a software engineer, watched carefully. Some took notes. Others just stared at Elon, trying to reconcile the man at the defense table with the visionary they'd seen on TV. This isn't about free speech, Wood continued. This is about responsibility. When you have 40 million people listening to every word you say, you can't throw around accusations that destroy lives. Mr. Musk will try to tell you pedo guy is just slang. It's not. It's a weapon, and he used it because he was angry that someone didn't bow down and worship his genius. Wood sat down. Judge Wilson nodded. Mr. Spiro, your opening statement. Alex Spiro stood smoothly. His voice was calmer than Wood's. Almost conversational. That was his style. Make it feel reasonable. Make the jury like him. Ladies and gentlemen, Let me be clear about something up front. Elon Musk shouldn't have sent that tweet. He knows it. I know it. We all know it. It was stupid. It was impulsive. He deleted it within hours. That's not the behavior of someone trying to destroy a reputation. That's the behavior of someone who made a mistake and immediately tried to fix it. Spyro walked toward the jury box. But let's talk about context. In July 2018, my client was working 120 hours a week. Tesla was on the brink of bankruptcy. He was sleeping on the factory floor. He just tried to help rescue 12 children from a cave, and the media was calling it a PR stunt. He was exhausted, emotional, and he lashed out with a phrase that in his native South Africa means creepy old man. That's it. That's the case. A few jurors nodded slightly. Now Mr. Wood is asking you to award $190 million for a deleted tweet. Spiro said. $190 million? That's more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. For a comment that was online for less than 3 hours before my client removed it. Does that seem reasonable? He paused, letting it sink in. Mr. Unsworth wants you to believe his life was destroyed, but where's the evidence? He's still living in Thailand. He's still with his partner. He's still giving interviews. Paid interviews, I might add, to media outlets. He's written a book. If anything, he's more famous now than before. Wood jumped up. Objection. Mr. Spiro is testifying, not making an opening statement. Sustained. Judge Wilson said. Mr. Spiro, stick to what you intend to prove. Spiro nodded. I intend to prove that no reasonable person would take pedo guy as a statement of fact. It was an insult. A crude one, yes, but an insult nonetheless. And under the First Amendment, people, even billionaires, are allowed to insult each other. He returned to his seat. Thank you. Day 2. Vernon's testimony. Vernon sat in the witness box, his hands folded in his lap. Wood led him through his background, his life in England, his move to Thailand, his love of caves. Vernon's voice was quiet but steady. Why did you move to Chiang Rai? Wood asked. The caves, Vernon said simply. Tham Luang was the most beautiful cave system I'd ever seen. I wanted to explore it, map it, protect it. I spent 7 years learning every passage. And when the Wild Boars soccer team became trapped, you volunteered immediately. Of course. I knew the cave better than almost anyone. I had to help. Wood pulled out a photo. Vernon standing with Rick Stanton and John Volanthen at the cave entrance. All 3 men looked exhausted but relieved. This was taken July 10th, after the rescue. How did you feel? Vernon's voice cracked slightly. Like a weight had been lifted. 13 lives saved. It was a miracle. And then 5 days later, Elon Musk tweeted that you were a pedophile. Vernon looked down. Yeah. What happened to your life after that? Vernon took a breath. Everything changed. People who didn't know me assumed the worst. My partner's family questioned whether she was safe with me. I received emails telling me to kill myself. Someone spray painted my house. I couldn't walk through Mae Sai without feeling like everyone was staring. Did you consider leaving Thailand? Every day. But that would have felt like admitting he was right. I hadn't done anything wrong. Wood nodded. Did Mr. Musk ever contact you privately to apologize? No. Never. Day 3. Elon's testimony. Elon took the stand wearing the same clothes he'd worn every day of the trial. Alex Spiro handled the questioning. Mr. Musk, why did you get involved in the Thai cave rescue? Elon's voice was flat, almost defensive. I saw children in danger. I have children. I thought we could help. Did you intend for the submarine to be a PR stunt? No. We spent 72 hours building it. We tested it. We shipped it to Thailand. That's real work, not a stunt. When Vernon Unsworth criticized it publicly, how did that make you feel? Angry? Frustrated? Like everyone thought I didn't actually care about those kids. Is that why you sent the tweet?
Elon paused. I was sleep deprived. I was dealing with multiple crises. I saw his comments, and I reacted poorly.
What does pedo guy mean to you? It's something we said in South Africa. It means creepy old man. Like weirdo or sus. It's not a literal accusation. Wood stood for cross-examination. He held up a printed email. Mr. Musk, on August 28, 2018, you sent an email to BuzzFeed News reporter Ryan Mack. In that email you said, and I quote, I suggest that you call people you know in Thailand, find out what's actually going on and stop defending child rapists. Were you referring to Mr. Unsworth? Elon shifted in his seat. I was given information by a private investigator. What information? That Vernon had a history in Thailand that was questionable. And did this private investigator provide evidence? He claimed to have evidence. Did you see this evidence? Elon hesitated. No. So you accused my client of being a child rapist based on claims from a private investigator you hired, who provided no actual evidence. I was told it was credible. By someone you paid $50,000 to dig up dirt on Mr. Unsworth. Objection. Spiro shouted. Your Honor, this is badgering. Overruled. Answer the question, Mr. Musk. Elon's jaw tightened. Yes. I hired an investigator. I wanted to know if Vernon's criticism was motivated by something beyond just disagreeing with my engineering. Wood leaned in. And when this investigator found nothing because there was nothing to find, you still never apologized. Why? I don't know. You don't know? I should have. I just didn't. The courtroom was silent. December 6, the jury deliberated for 63 minutes. When they returned, Vernon felt his heart hammering. Vernon sat behind him in the gallery, her hand pressed against the wooden barrier between them. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Wilson asked. We have, Your Honor. In the matter of Unsworth versus Musk, on the charge of defamation. How do you find? The jury foreman, a retired postal worker named Donald Chen, cleared his throat. We find in favor of the defendant, Elon Musk. The courtroom erupted. Reporters bolted for the doors. Vernon sat frozen. Not guilty. After 16 months of hell. After death threats and harassment and sleepless nights. Not guilty. Outside the courthouse, Elon tweeted, my faith in humanity is restored. Vernon and Warren flew back to Thailand in silence. But the story wasn't over. Because 3 years later a reporter named Raj Khatri would start asking questions about what really happened at that cave. And the answers would bring them both back to court. UCLA Psychology Department. Los Angeles, March. Dr. Neera Khatri sat across from her patient in the small office she kept on the 3rd floor of Franz Hall. The afternoon sun filtered through half-closed blinds, creating stripes of light across her desk. Her patient, she couldn't use his real name, but she called him Daniel in her notes, stared at his hands. Daniel was 28 years old. He'd been a volunteer translator during the Tham Long cave rescue, helping coordinate between Thai officials and international rescue teams. He spoke English, Thai, and Mandarin. He'd been essential to the operation. Now, nearly 3 years later, he couldn't sleep without seeing the cave in his dreams. Tell me about the nightmare again, Neera said gently. She was 34, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her voice had a specific quality, calm but present. Her patient said talking to her felt like being heard for the first time. It's always the same, Daniel said in accented English. I'm in the cave. The water is rising. I'm trying to tell someone something important, but they can't hear me. The water gets higher and higher, and I'm screaming but no sound comes out. What are you trying to tell them? Daniel looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep. I don't know, that's the worst part. In the dream it feels urgent. Life or death. But when I wake up, I can't remember what it was. Neera made a note. This was common with trauma, the brain protecting itself by burying details that felt too dangerous to remember. But sometimes those buried details were important. Let's try something, she said. Close your eyes. Breathe. I want you to go back to the cave, but we're going to go slowly. You're safe here. I'm with you. Daniel closed his eyes. His breathing slowed. You're at the cave entrance. July 2018. Tell me what you see. Tents everywhere. Families. News cameras. The smell of food cooking. Rain. Good. Now move forward. What's your job that day? I'm translating for the American team. The SpaceX people. They have equipment, big metal cases. Lots of technology. What kind of technology? Daniel's brow furrowed. I don't know the English word. For looking underground. Through rocks. Neera's pen paused. Ground-penetrating radar? Yes, that. They set it up away from the main area. Not many people saw it. They said it was for mapping the cave structure in real time. Did they share what they found? Daniel's breathing quickened. I translated something. Between one of the engineers and a Thai Navy SEAL. The engineer, a woman, Japanese name maybe. She was excited. She said the radar showed something. An alternative route. Faster, safer. But the SEAL said, his eyes snapped open. He said it would take 2 more days to access. 2 days we didn't have. The boys were weak. The oxygen was running out. So they decided to proceed with the original plan. Mira leaned forward. Daniel, did you tell anyone about this conversation? Everyone expects the standard billionaire response. A carefully worded statement read by lawyers. Emotionless and safe. Instead, Elon Musk reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a handwritten letter. His hand trembles. What he's about to say will shock everyone in that courtroom and reveal a truth about the 2018 Thai cave rescue that's been hidden for 6 years. But to understand why this moment matters, we need to go back. Back to 12 boys trapped in darkness. Back to 2 men who both tried to save them. Back to the tweet that started a war, and the cave that would finally end it. This is the story of how pride became poison, and how truth became the antidote. The gavel's crack echoed like a gunshot through the Delaware Court of Chancery. Judge Kathleen McCormick, a woman whose reputation for no-nonsense rulings had earned her the nickname the Iron Chancellor among Wilmington lawyers, leaned forward in her black robes. The morning light streaming through the tall windows caught the silver at her temples, making her look both younger and older than her 53 years. Mr. Musk, she said, her voice carrying that particular tone judges use when they've run out of patience. Will you please stand? At the defendant's table, Elon Musk pushed back his chair. The screech of wood on marble made several people in the gallery wince. He stood slowly, his black blazer slightly rumpled, his signature black t-shirt visible underneath. His jaw was clenched so tight you could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. The courtroom was packed, every wooden bench filled with journalists, legal observers, and curious members of the public who'd lined up since dawn. In the back row, a Northwestern University journalism student named Marcus Delgado held his phone below the bench line, recording audio despite the bailiff's warnings. This was history. He could feel it. This court, Judge McCormick continued, adjusting her reading glasses, has reviewed the settlement agreement reached between yourself and Dr. Vernon Unsworth. As part of that agreement, you are hereby ordered to issue a formal public apology for the defamatory statements made on July 15, 2018, and subsequently repeated on social media platforms. Vernon Unsworth sat at the plaintiff's table, looking smaller than his 6-foot frame should allow. At 69 years old, he'd aged visibly since this whole nightmare started. His gray hair was thinner. His weathered face, tanned from years exploring caves in northern Thailand, carried new lines around his eyes. His attorney, a sharp woman in her 40s named Alexandra Morrison from the firm Quinn Emanuel, rested a hand briefly on his shoulder. The gallery held its collective breath. Phones were technically prohibited, but at least 30 people had them hidden in jacket pockets, purses, under legal pads. Everyone expected the same outcome. Elon would read a carefully worded statement prepared by his legal team. Something corporate, something safe. I regret any harm caused or upon reflection. My comments were inappropriate. The standard non-apology apology that billionaires give when cornered. That's what everyone expected. Elon reached into his jacket pocket. His lead attorney, Alex Spiro, a man who'd defended everyone from Jay-Z to Robert Kraft, stiffened. This wasn't in the script. They'd rehearsed the statement 3 times yesterday. 2 pages, double-spaced, neutral language approved by the judge's clerks. Elon was supposed to read it from the podium, shake Vernon's hand and walk out. Done. Over. Move on. Instead, Elon pulled out what looked like a handwritten letter. The paper was slightly creased, as if it had been folded and unfolded many times. His hand trembled slightly, whether from anger, emotion, or something else entirely. No one could tell. Judge McCormick frowned. Mr. Musk, I trust you're prepared to proceed with the agreed-upon statement. Your Honor, Elon said, his voice rougher than usual. I am prepared to apologize. But before I do, there's something this court and the world needs to understand about what really happened in that cave in Thailand. About why I said what I said. The courtroom erupted. Reporters lurched forward. Vernon's attorney shot to her feet. Your Honor, this is not... Judge McCormick's gavel came down 3 times hard. Order. Mr. Musk, you will stick to the agreed terms or face contempt charges. Am I understood? Elon didn't back down. His eyes, those strange intense eyes that seemed to look through people rather than at them, locked onto the judge. With respect, Your Honor, the truth isn't what anyone thinks, and if I'm going to apologize properly, everyone needs to know why it took me 6 years to get here. Vernon stood now too. His face had gone pale. What are you talking about? His voice carried a slight British accent, though softer after years in Southeast Asia. Elon turned to face him for the first time. Do you remember Somchai Nakarat? Vernon blinked. Who? The Thai Navy SEAL. He was at the cave, July 9th, 2018. You spoke with him outside the third chamber entrance around 1400 hours. Elon's voice had that rapid-fire quality it got when he was working through a problem. He kept a notebook, everything that happened during the rescue operation, every conversation, every decision. Alexandra Morrison was frantically whispering to Vernon, but he shook his head, genuinely confused. I talked to dozens of SEALs. That notebook, Elon continued, his grip tightening on the letter in his hand, was sealed by Thai military intelligence for 5 years. It was finally declassified last November, and it contains testimony that contradicts everything presented in the Judge McCormick's expression had shifted from irritation to something more complex. She glanced at her clerk, who shrugged helplessly. Whatever this was, it wasn't in the briefing documents. Your Honor, Alex Spiro tried again, standing now, his voice diplomatic but urgent. May we request a brief recess to— No, Elon's voice cut through. No more delays. No more lawyers managing the message. Vernon deserves to hear this directly. Everyone does. He held up the letter, and for the first time, people in the front row could see it wasn't typed. It was handwritten in neat, careful script. Not Elon's handwriting. His was famously chicken scratch terrible. This letter, Elon said, his voice dropping quieter, forcing everyone to lean in, was given to me 4 months ago in Chiang Rai province. It's from someone who was in that cave. Someone whose testimony was never heard because no one thought to ask her. Marcus Delgado, in the back row, felt his heart hammering. He'd been researching this case for 3 years, building an archive of every tweet, every court document, every interview. He'd never heard of any suppressed testimony. No one had. Elon's eyes moved across the courtroom, landing on faces one by one. Journalists, legal eagles, random citizens who'd followed this saga like a soap opera. Finally, his gaze returned to Vernon. The truth is, Elon said, and his voice cracked slightly, we were both right, and we were both wrong. And a woman named Arolani Channing has been carrying the real story for 7 years because nobody bothered to ask a seamstress from Maysai what she saw. Judge McCormick leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. The courtroom had gone so quiet you could hear the heating system humming through the vents. Mr. Musk, she said finally, you have 2 minutes to explain yourself before I hold you in contempt. And those 2 minutes start now. Elon looked down at the letter in his hands. When he looked back up, there were tears in his eyes. It starts, he said, with 12 boys on a soccer team, and the 2 men who both tried to save them in the only ways they knew how. Tham Long Nong Non Cave Complex, Chiang Rai Province, Thailand. The Wild Boars soccer team cycled toward the cave entrance in single file, their bikes kicking up red dust from the unpaved road. 12 boys ages 11 to 16, plus their coach, 25-year-old Ekapol Chanthawang. They called him Coach. It was supposed to be a quick adventure. An hour, maybe 2. Explore the cave, have some fun, bike home before dinner. The rainy season wasn't supposed to start for another week. Nobody told the monsoon that. Titan Channon, 13 years old, small for his age, with a bright smile that showed the gap between his front teeth, was the 7th boy in line. He pedaled harder to keep up with the older boys. This was his first season with the Wild Boars. He wanted them to see he was tough enough to belong. Stay together, Coach Ek called out in Thai. We go in, we come out as a team. Titan's mother, Aruni, was at home 3 kilometers away, her foot pumping the old Singer sewing machine her grandmother had given her. She was finishing a school uniform order. 3 shirts that needed to be done by Monday. The work was steady but the pay was small. 8,000 baht a month. Barely 240 American dollars. Enough for rent and rice. Not much else. She didn't know her son was biking toward a cave that would become his prison for 18 days. 7,000 miles away, in Hawthorne, California, Elon Musk sat in a conference room at SpaceX headquarters. staring at a laptop screen covered in Falcon 9 rocket telemetry data. "Elon, are you listening?" Gwynne Shotwell, SpaceX president, tapped her pen on the table. "We need to decide on the launch window for the next Starlink deployment." Elon's eyes didn't leave the screen, but he wasn't looking at rocket data anymore. He'd pulled up a news website. A small headline near the bottom, "Youth soccer team missing in Thai cave." "Give me a second." He clicked the article. 12 boys. 1 coach. Trapped. The Tham Luang cave had flooded from unexpected rains. The entrance was underwater. No one knew if they were alive. Something twisted in Elon's chest. His son XAAA-12. They called him X, was only weeks old. The lack of sleep was making everything feel raw and strange. He imagined X at 13, trapped in darkness. Water rising. No way out. "Elon?" Gwynne's voice was gentler now. "How fast can we mobilize the Boring Company team?" he asked, still reading. "For what?" "Thailand. Cave rescue. Those kids." He looked up, and his team saw that expression they'd learned to recognize. The one that meant Elon had decided something impossible was now mandatory. "We can design an extraction pod. Something small enough to fit through narrow passages. We've got submarine tech from the Falcon recovery ships." One of the engineers, a woman named Dr. Yuki Tanaka, leaned forward. She was 32, brilliant with propulsion systems, and one of the few people who would push back on Elon's wilder ideas. "Boss, cave rescue is specialized work. We're rocket scientists, not spelunkers." "Engineering is engineering," Elon said, already typing. "Get me everything we know about cave geometry, water pressure at depth, and human tolerance for enclosed spaces. If we can land a rocket on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean, we can pull kids out of a flooded cave." The room went quiet. Then slowly, people started opening laptops. Back in Thailand by midnight on June 23rd, the situation had turned from adventure to emergency. Water poured into Tham Luang like someone had opened a dam. The boys and Coach Ek had gone deeper into the cave, looking for higher ground. They climbed up a muddy slope and found themselves trapped on a small rocky ledge. The Thais called it Pattaya Beach, though there was no beach. Just mud and limestone and darkness so complete, it felt solid. The boys huddled together. Water was everywhere. Their flashlights were dying. Titan sat between 2 older boys, trying not to cry. He was hungry, so hungry. They'd brought nothing. No food, no water, just themselves and their bikes, which were now somewhere underwater behind them. "We pray," Coach Ek said quietly. He was a former Buddhist monk, ordained as a novice when his parents died. He taught the boys meditation. "We breathe slowly. We save our energy. Help will come." "How do you know?" one of the younger boys whispered. "Because people love you," Coach Ek said. "Your families won't stop looking." Outside the cave, Aroni arrived at 9 p.m. Her heart hammering so hard she thought it would break her ribs. Other parents were already there. Mothers, fathers, grandparents all standing in the rain, staring at the cave entrance that had swallowed their children. A police officer told them the truth. The cave was completely flooded. They couldn't get in. They had to wait for the water to go down. "How long?" Aroni asked, her voice barely a whisper. The officer looked away. "We don't know." Aroni set down the plastic bag she'd brought. It contained Titan's favorite snack, dried squid, and she began to pray to every spirit and deity she could name. Mekonka, the river goddess. From, the four-faced god. The Buddha himself. Anyone who would listen. "Please," she thought. "Please bring him home." By July 2nd, 9 days after the boys vanished, the world was watching. 2 British cave divers, Rick Stanton and John Volanthen, were the best in the world at navigating flooded caves. They'd flown in from the UK. These men were quiet, methodical, almost frighteningly calm. They'd been diving through Tham Luang's black water for days, searching chamber by chamber. Vernon Unsworth had guided them. He was a 63-year-old retired insurance broker who'd fallen in love with Thailand and this cave specifically. He'd spent years mapping Tham Luang's passages, studying its moods, learning where water pooled and where air pockets formed. He knew this cave like some men know their own backyards. Vernon was prickly. He didn't suffer fools. When journalists asked stupid questions, "Can't you just pump the water out?" he'd snap at them. "Do you understand how much water we're talking about? Millions of gallons. This isn't someone's flooded basement." But he was also desperate. He'd guided school groups through Tham Luang. He'd recommended it as safe. Now 12 children were inside, and he felt responsible. On July 2nd, Rick and John dove deeper than anyone had gone before. 4 kilometers into the cave. The water was murky. Visibility near zero. They followed a rope line, their lights cutting weak tunnels through the darkness. Then Rick's light caught something. A muddy slope, and on that slope, huddled together like baby birds in a nest, 13 faces, thin and filthy and alive. "How many of you?" Rick called out in English. 13, one of the boys answered. Several were crying. All were shaking. "Brilliant," Rick said in his characteristic understated British way. "You're going to be okay." When news broke that the boys were alive, Thailand erupted in joy. Aruni collapsed at the cave entrance, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. Her son was alive. Titan was alive. But alive wasn't safe. The boys were 4 kilometers inside a flooded cave system. Getting them out would require something that had never been attempted at this scale: sedating children and diving them through underwater passages where one wrong move meant drowning. On July 7th, Elon Musk's team arrived in Thailand. They brought a prototype, a cylinder about 1.5 meters long, made from Falcon 9 rocket parts, lightweight aluminum, sealed, with an oxygen supply. They called it the Wild Boar Pod. Elon tweeted a video of it being tested in a Los Angeles swimming pool. The internet had mixed reactions. Some people thought it was brilliant. Others thought it was a publicity stunt from a billionaire who wanted attention. Vernon Unsworth watched the video on someone's phone at the cave site and felt his jaw tighten. The cave's narrowest passage was only 38 centimeters wide. That rigid metal tube would never make it through. The dive plan already existed. Experienced divers would bring the boys out one by one, sedated, face masks on, guided through the dark water by experts who'd done impossible dives before. A submarine pod built in California by people who'd never seen the inside of Tham Luang? That was fantasy. Vernon muttered something to Somchai Nakarat, the Thai Navy SEAL commander standing nearby. Somchai was 35, compact and muscular, with eyes that had seen things he didn't talk about. He wrote something in the small notebook he always carried. He documented everything during operations. Training had taught him that. "What do you think?" Vernon asked him, nodding toward Elon's people setting up equipment in a restricted area. Somchai watched for a moment. "I think," he said carefully in English, "they want to help, but want is not the same as can." Vernon nodded. Exactly. What neither of them knew was that Elon's team had brought something else: ground-penetrating radar equipment from Navtech Systems, a Colorado company specializing in underground navigation. They were scanning the cave in real time, mapping passages that didn't appear on any chart. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was overseeing the scan. She'd flown straight from California, operating on 4 hours of sleep in 3 days. On her laptop screen, the cave's internal structure appeared in ghostly blue and green lines. And there she saw it, an alternative route, a branched passage that might allow access to the chamber where the boys were trapped, but from a different angle. It would require drilling, maybe 2 days of work, but it could provide a safer extraction route. She showed Elon the data. Elon stared at the screen for a long time. "Have we shared this with the Thai command?" "I approached Commander Arpakorn," Yuki said. "He was in the middle of dive briefings. I left the data with one of his officers." "Which one?" "I don't remember his name." "One of the SEALs. He wrote it down in a notebook." Somchai Nakarat's notebook. But the information never made it up the chain of command. The rescue operation was already in motion. The divers were ready. The boys were weak. Every hour mattered. On July 8th, tragedy struck. Saman Kunan, a former Thai Navy SEAL who'd volunteered for the rescue, ran out of oxygen while placing air tanks in the cave. He died doing what he believed was right. His death changed everything. The rescue could wait no longer. Between July 8th and 10th, working in shifts that seemed impossible, the divers brought all 13 out. Sedated, guided through black water, past places where one panic moment could mean death. All 12 boys survived. Coach X survived. Only Saman Kunan was lost. Elon's submarine pod never went into the cave. It sat outside unused, a solution to a problem that was solved differently. On July 10th, CNN interviewed Vernon outside the cave. He was exhausted, emotionally wrecked, overwhelmed with relief. When asked about Elon's involvement, Vernon said what he was thinking in that moment. The submarine was a PR stunt. It wouldn't have worked. Elon Musk can stick his submarine where it hurts. The interview went viral. And on July 15, 2018, Elon Musk sent the tweet that would bring them both to a Delaware courtroom 6 years later. SpaceX headquarters, Hawthorne, California, July 5. Elon hadn't slept in 43 hours. Tesla was hemorrhaging money. They called it production hell. The Model 3 assembly line kept breaking down. Investors were threatening to pull out. Short sellers were betting billions that Tesla would collapse. Every day felt like fighting a war on 12 different fronts. And now the media was calling his rescue attempt a publicity stunt. He sat alone in his office. The lights off except for the glow of his phone screen. Twitter was exploding with hot takes about the cave rescue. Most praised the Thai Navy SEALs and the British divers. Some mentioned Elon's submarine, usually followed by laughing emojis. Vernon Unsworth's CNN interview kept auto-playing on his timeline. That voice, that British accent. Dismissive and cutting. Elon Musk can stick his submarine where it hurts. Elon's thumb hovered over his phone. He knew he should put it down. Walk away. Let his PR team handle it. That's what adults did. What CEOs did. Instead, he started typing. A Twitter user named A. Merrill had defended him. Elon Musk was just trying to help. Why is everyone being so mean about it? Elon replied. You know what? I'm starting to think this Vernon Unsworth guy might be a pedo guy. He hit send. For 30 seconds, he stared at the words on his screen. Then something in his chest went cold. He deleted it. But the internet never forgets. Mae Sai, Chiang Rai Province, Thailand. Same day evening, Vernon Unsworth sat in his small house with Warren Ratro, his 40-year-old girlfriend of 7 years. The house was modest. 2 bedrooms, the kitchen barely big enough for one person. A living room with a fan that rattled when it spun. But it was there. Warren was cooking pad krapow, stir-fried basil chicken. Vernon's favorite. The smell filled the house, mixing with the evening heat. Vernon's phone kept buzzing on the wooden table. He'd turned it face down hours ago. You should turn it off, Warren said in Thai. Vernon understood more than he spoke after living here 7 years. I know. But he didn't reach for it. His phone buzzed again. Then again. Then it started ringing. Vernon flipped it over. 15 missed calls. 63 text messages. His email inbox was exploding. 127 unread messages in the last 20 minutes. What the hell? He opened Twitter. The first thing he saw was a screenshot. Elon Musk's deleted tweet. Someone had captured it before it vanished. This Vernon Unsworth guy might be a pedo guy. The room tilted. What is it? Vernon asked, seeing his face go white. Vernon couldn't speak. He just handed her the phone. Vernon's English was basic, but she understood that word. Pedophile. She looked at Vernon, then back at the phone, then at Vernon again. Her eyes filled with tears, not sad tears, angry ones. He says this about you? Because you told truth about his stupid machine? Vernon's hands were shaking. 22 million people followed Elon Musk on Twitter. 22 million. And now they'd seen or would soon see an accusation that Vernon was a pedophile. His relationship with Warren was already something people whispered about. British man, 63 years old. Thai woman, 40 years old. Some people assumed the worst, that he was one of those expats. The kind who came to Thailand for the wrong reason. Never mind that they'd met at a Cave Exploration Society meeting. Never mind that Warren had a master's degree in environmental science. Never mind that they loved each other. Now Elon Musk had just told the world what those whispers implied. Vernon's phone rang again. A number he didn't recognize. He answered without thinking. Mr. Unsworth. This is Brad Mitchell from The Guardian. We're running a story on Elon Musk's tweet about you. Would you like to comment? Vernon hung up. The phone rang immediately. Different number. He turned it off. I wrote it in my daily log. All translators kept logs. But after the rescue succeeded, nobody asked for them. I forgot about it until now. Do you still have this log? Daniel pulled out his phone. I keep everything on cloud storage. Work habit. He scrolled, then held up the screen. Here. July 9th, 2018. 1500 hours. Neera read the entry. Her heart began to beat faster. That evening, Neera called her brother. Raj Khatri was 39 years old. and worked as an investigative reporter for ProPublica, the nonprofit newsroom known for exposing corporate wrongdoing and government failures. He and Neera had grown up in San Jose, children of Indian immigrants who'd built a life around education and hard work. Their parents owned a small grocery store. Raj became a journalist. Neera became a psychologist. Both of them in different ways tried to help people. "You're calling me at 8 p.m. on a Monday," Raj said when he answered. "This is either really good or really bad. I need your help with something," Neera said. "But it's confidential. I can't tell you my source." "Professional ethics?" "Exactly," Raj sighed. "Okay, what have you got?" Neera chose her words carefully. During the Thai cave rescue in 2018, there was equipment at the site that nobody reported on: ground-penetrating radar. It showed an alternative rescue route that was never pursued. "I need to know if this is real, and if it is, why nobody talked about it." There was a long pause. "That's a hell of a lead, Neera. If true, it means the rescue could have been done differently. Maybe safer. Maybe with less risk. Or maybe 2 extra days would have killed those kids," Raj said. "Oxygen levels were critical." "I know, but shouldn't people know the full story? Especially when there's been so much argument about who did what and why." Raj was quiet. "Then give me 2 weeks. I'll make some calls." Raj Khatri was good at his job. Over the next month, he spoke with 17 people involved in the Thamlong rescue. He tracked down engineers from SpaceX who'd been there. He found Thai officials willing to talk off the record. He interviewed cave rescue experts who'd studied the operation. And slowly, a picture emerged. Navtex Systems, a Colorado-based company, had indeed deployed ground-penetrating radar at the cave site. It was commissioned by SpaceX but funded through a private Elon Musk foundation. Separate from the submarine project, the goal was to create a complete 3D map of the cave system that could be used for future cave safety research. The radar had worked. It had found an undiscovered branch passage that, with 2 days of careful drilling from above, could have provided access to the chamber where the boys were trapped. The route would have avoided the most dangerous underwater sections. But, and this was crucial, the information came on July 9th. The rescue operation was already in motion. Divers were positioned. The sedation protocol was approved. Thai command made a decision. Switching strategies mid-operation was more dangerous than proceeding with the current plan. "It was the right call," said Dr. Richard Harris, the Australian anesthetist who'd sedated the boys when Raj reached him by phone. Harris had won Australian of the Year in 2019 for his role in the rescue. "Every hour mattered. We were terrified those kids wouldn't survive another day. Starting over with a new extraction method. That's 2 days minimum, probably 3. The oxygen wouldn't have lasted." "But shouldn't the public have known this alternative existed?" Raj asked. Harris was quiet for a moment. "In retrospect, maybe. But at the time, we made the best decision we could with the information we had. Second-guessing that feels like dishonoring what Salman Kunan died for." Salman Kunan, the Thai Navy SEAL who'd drowned placing oxygen tanks. His sacrifice had pushed the operation into high gear. No more delays. No more alternatives. Just get those boys out. March 20. Raj published his investigation in ProPublica under the headline, "The Cave Route Not Taken." New evidence shows alternative rescue plan was proposed and dismissed during Thai cave crisis. The article was meticulous. It had documents, interviews, technical analysis. It explained the ground-penetrating radar, the alternative route, and the command decision to proceed with the diving plan. It praised the rescue teams while questioning why certain information had never been disclosed. Most importantly, it revealed something nobody had known. Elon Musk's team had been more involved in the technical analysis of the rescue than previously reported. They weren't just building a submarine, they were mapping the cave in real time with cutting-edge technology. And when Vernon Unsworth had called the submarine a PR stunt, he hadn't known about any of this. Neither had the media. Neither had the public. The article went viral within hours. Vernon Unsworth read it in his small house in Chiang Rai, sitting at his kitchen table with morning coffee going cold in his cup. Vernon stood behind him, reading over his shoulder. "Does this change anything?" she asked in Thai. Vernon stared at the screen. His hands were shaking slightly. He had real data, real information, and he just left. He didn't share it with the press. Didn't explain it during the trial. Why? Maybe he thought it would sound like he was making excuses, Vernon suggested. Or maybe, Vernon said slowly, he didn't want anyone to know how close he came to actually helping. Because if people knew he had real intelligence about the cave and it didn't get used, it opens questions about who's responsible for that decision. Vernon closed his laptop. His mind was spinning. For 3 years since the trial, he'd believed Elon was just a billionaire with an ego who'd shown up with a useless submarine. But what if it was more complicated? What if Elon had actually contributed something real, and then felt defensive when nobody acknowledged it? That didn't excuse the pedo guy tweet. Nothing excused that, but it changed Vernon's understanding of why Elon had been so angry. 2 days later, Vernon called L. Lynn Wood. I want to reopen the case, Vernon said. On what grounds? You lost. There's no appeal. Not defamation, Vernon said. Something different. Fraud and concealment. He withheld information during the rescue operation that could have been relevant. And then he attacked me for criticizing him, knowing he'd never disclosed what his team actually did there. Wood was quiet. That's a stretch, Vernon. In Delaware corporate law, not California defamation. Different jurisdiction entirely. Can it be done?
Another pause.
Maybe, if we can prove intentional concealment. It would be expensive. And you might lose again. Vernon looked at Warrenan. She nodded. File it, Vernon said. I want the full truth on record. Not for money. For the record. Delaware Court of Chancery. Wellington. The courthouse looked different from the Los Angeles Federal Building where the first trial had been held. This was older, more formal limestone columns and brass fixtures that spoke of serious business. Delaware was where corporations came to settle their battles. This wasn't about hurt feelings or damaged reputations anymore. This was about disclosure, accountability, and what companies owed to the truth. Judge Kathleen McCormick presided. She was 49 years old, the first woman to serve as Chancellor of Delaware's Court of Chancery. She'd overseen some of the biggest corporate battles in recent years, including forcing Elon Musk to complete his purchase of Twitter after he tried to back out. She knew him well. She wasn't impressed by celebrity. Mr. Wood, she said, looking over her reading glasses. Your amended complaint alleges fraud and concealment of material information during a life-or-death rescue operation. Those are serious charges. I hope you have substantial evidence. Wood stood. He was 72 now, moving a bit slower but still sharp. We do, Your Honor. We have testimony from personnel who were present at Tham Luang in July 2018. We have technical records from Navtech Systems showing the ground-penetrating radar scans, and we have a notebook, recently declassified by Thai military authorities, that documents conversations between Mr. Musk's team and Thai Navy SEALs that were never disclosed in the At the defense table, Alex Spiro looked less confident than he had 4 years ago. This was different terrain. In California, he'd been defending free speech. Here he was defending corporate transparency. The rules were stricter. Your Honor, Spiro said. Standing, this is a fishing expedition. Mr. Unsworth lost his defamation case. Now he's trying to relitigate the same events under a different theory. The court should dismiss this as res judicata, already decided. Judge McCormick shook her head. The 2019 case concerned defamation. This concerns alleged fraud and concealment. Different legal theories, different elements to prove. I'm allowing it to proceed. Mr. Wood, call your first witness. The courtroom screen flickered to life with a video feed from Bangkok. Somchai Nakarat appeared, sitting in what looked like a simple office. He wore a Thai Navy dress uniform, his ribbons and medals visible. He was 41 years old now, retired from active service but still trim and military straight in his posture. His face was weathered, serious. These were eyes that had seen things. The translator sat beside Wood, ready to assist, but Somchai's English was functional. Mr. Nakarat, Wood began. Thank you for agreeing to testify. Can you tell the court your role during the Tham Luang rescue operation? I was SEAL Team Commander, 3rd Naval Area Command. I coordinated with international dive teams and managed equipment logistics at the cave site. His accent was thick but understandable. Did you keep records of your activities? Yes, sir. Standard operating procedure. I kept detailed notebook of all significant communications and decisions. Wood held up a document. Is this your notebook from July? Somchai leaned forward, studying the screen where the document appeared. Yes, that is mine. Can you read the entry from July 9th, 1447 hours? Somchai put on reading glasses. It says met with SpaceX engineer Dr. Tanaka. She showed radar data indicating possible alternative extraction route via branch passage at approximately 200 meters depth. Route would require surface drilling, estimated 48 to 72 hours, brought data to Commander Arpakorn. He consulted with dive team leaders Stanton and Valentin. Decision too risky to change plans mid-operation. Oxygen levels critical. Proceed with current extraction protocol. The courtroom was silent. Did you inform Mr. Musk or his team of this decision? Wood asked. Somchai hesitated. I informed Dr. Tanaka. I assumed she would tell Mr. Musk. Did you ever see Mr. Musk discuss this alternative route publicly? No, sir. Did you see him mention it during his legal battle with Mr. Unsworth? No, sir. Why do you think that is? Spyro jumped up. Objection. Calls for speculation. Sustained, Judge McCormick said. Mr. Nakarat can only testify to what he observed, not what others were thinking. Wood nodded. Let me rephrase. Mr. Nakarat, in your professional opinion as the SEAL commander who coordinated that rescue, would it have been relevant for the public to know that SpaceX had provided technical intelligence that revealed an alternative rescue route? Somchai thought carefully. Yes. For complete historical record. Yes. But I understand why it was not said. The route was not used. The boys were saved. Perhaps Mr. Musk thought mentioning it would seem like he was taking credit for something that did not happen. Or, Wood said quietly, perhaps he didn't want to admit that his team had real intelligence that wasn't acted upon. Because that would raise questions about communication and decision-making during the rescue. Objection! Spiro was on his feet again. Counsel is testifying, Your Honor. Sustained. Mr. Wood. Ask questions, don't make speeches. No further questions, Wood said. Spiro's cross-examination was brief. Commander Nakarat, the decision not to pursue the alternative route that was made by Thai authorities and the British dive team leaders, correct? Not by Elon Musk, correct. And in your professional judgment, was that the right decision? Somchai's face grew somber. My brother SEAL, Saman Kunan, died during that operation. Every decision we made to save lives. Yes, I believe it was right decision. But that does not mean other information should be hidden. Spyro paused, clearly not expecting that answer. No further questions. The next witness was Dr. Yuki Tanaka. She appeared in person, having flown from Seattle where she now worked for Blue Origin. She was 38, wearing a simple blue blazer, her black hair cut short. She looked nervous. Dr. Tanaka Wood began. You were employed by SpaceX in July. Yes, I was a propulsion engineer, but I had experience with ground mapping technology from previous projects. Did you deploy ground-penetrating radar at the Tham Luang cave site? Yes. Mr. Musk asked me to. He wanted a complete map of the cave system. What did you find? Yuki pulled out a tablet. On the courtroom screen, a 3D wireframe image appeared. The cave system rendered in glowing blue lines. This is what the radar showed. The main route the divers used is here in red, but there was this branch. She highlighted a section in green that could have potentially provided access to the chamber where the boys were trapped, approaching from a different angle. Did you share this information with Thai authorities? Yes. I showed it to Commander Nakarat and tried to show it to Commander Arpakorn, but he was managing about 50 things at once. I left the data with Somchai and trusted he would pass it up the chain. Did you tell Mr. Musk about this alternative route? Yuki's voice dropped. Yes. What did he say? She closed her eyes briefly. He said, if the Thai Navy isn't asking for it, don't interfere, we're outsiders here. We need to respect their command structure. Did you agree with that decision? Yuki's hands gripped the edge of the witness box. I've questioned it every single day since. Maybe we should have pushed harder. Maybe we should have made more noise, but at the time, it felt like the right thing, not to inject chaos into an already desperate situation. Wood's voice softened. Dr. Tanaka, has this weighed on you? Yes. Her voice broke slightly. 13 people came out alive. That's what matters. But I wonder if we could have made it safer. I wonder if Seman Kunan would still be alive if we'd pursued the other route. I'll never know. That not knowing, it's heavy. Several people in the gallery looked down. Even Judge McCormick's expression shifted slightly. Why didn't you mention this during the 2019 trial? Wood asked. Nobody asked me. I wasn't called as a witness. And by then, Mr. Musk's lawyers had their strategy, that the submarine was a good faith effort, that wasn't needed. Adding the radar data would have complicated that narrative. Would it have complicated it, or would it have proven that Mr. Musk's involvement was more substantive than anyone realized? Objection, Sparrow said, but his voice lacked conviction. I'll allow it, Judge McCormick said. Yuki looked directly at Elon, who sat motionless at the defense table. It would have proven he was genuinely trying to help. That it wasn't just about ego or PR. But it also would have raised questions about why that information never became part of the public discussion about the rescue. When Elon took the stand, he looked older. At 52, the lines around his eyes were deeper. His hair was grayer at the temples. He'd been through a lot since 2018. Buying Twitter, battles with the SEC, multiple relationships ending. Tesla's stock fluctuating wildly. He looked tired. Mr. Musk, Wood began. Did you know your team had discovered an alternative rescue route? Yes. Did you share this information with the public? No. Why not? Elon's jaw worked. Because it didn't matter. The boys were rescued successfully. Talking about what-ifs seemed disrespectful to the people who actually did the work. Or was it because mentioning it would open up questions about communication failures and missed opportunities? No. It was because I didn't want to seem like I was trying to take credit for something my team didn't actually do. But you did do something, Mr. Musk. You provided technical intelligence that revealed an alternative approach. That's real contribution. Elon stared at Wood. Then why did Vernon call it a PR stunt? The courtroom went still. That's what I couldn't get past, Elon continued, his voice rising slightly. We did real work, we provided real data, and we were dismissed as attention-seeking. So, when the lawsuit came, my lawyers said don't mention the radar data, because it sounds defensive, like we're making excuses. I went along with it. Maybe that was wrong. Did you ever try to contact Mr. Unsworth privately to explain this? No. Why not? Elon's hands clenched. Pride, anger, stubbornness. Pick one. Judge McCormick leaned forward. Mr. Musk, do you believe Mr. Unsworth deserved to know about your team's technical contributions before you publicly attacked him? Elon looked at Vernon for the first time. Vernon looked back. Yes, Elon said quietly. He did. Willington, Delaware, September. Judge McCormick's chambers smelled like old books and fresh coffee. She sat behind a mahogany desk that had probably witnessed 1,000 corporate battles. Across from her, Wood and Sparrow sat in leather chairs that creaked when they shifted weight. Gentlemen, she said, setting down her reading glasses, I've reviewed all the testimony. Here's what I see. Mr. Musk's team did contribute real technical intelligence during the rescue. That intelligence wasn't acted upon for legitimate operational reasons, but it also was never disclosed, which left the public with an incomplete picture of what actually happened. Then Mr. Musk attacked Mr. Unsworth based on that incomplete picture. Wood nodded. Sparrow remained neutral. I could rule on this, Judge McCormick continued, but I don't think that's what either party actually needs. Mr. Unsworth, you're not really after money, are you? Brennan, sitting in the corner, shook his head. No, Your Honor. And Mr. Musk, you're not actually defending your right to call people names on Twitter, are you? Elon, standing by the window, turned. No, then I'm ordering mediation. I'm appointing Dr. Helen Okonkwo. She's handled cases more complicated than this. If you two can't reach an agreement after 30 days with her, I'll issue my ruling, and I promise you, neither of you will like it as much as you'd like a resolution you create yourselves. Dr. Helen Okonkwo arrived from Boston 3 days later. She was 58 years old, originally from Lagos, Nigeria, with a PhD in conflict resolution from Harvard. She'd mediated disputes between warlords in Liberia, between corporations and indigenous communities in the Amazon, between family members who hadn't spoken in decades. She'd seen every kind of human stubbornness. Her office was in a converted townhouse near Rodney Square, neutral territory. Comfortable but not fancy. 2 chairs facing each other. A coffee table between them. Windows that let in natural light. No power dynamics. No advantages. She met with Elon first. Mr. Musk, she said, gesturing to one of the chairs. Her accent was a blend of Nigerian inflection and American precision. Tell me why you're here. Elon sat stiffly. Because a judge ordered me to be. Helen smiled slightly. Try again. The truth this time. Elon was quiet for a long moment. Then, because I can't let go of the fact that I tried to help, and everyone treated it like a joke. Everyone, or one person specifically, Vernon Unsworth specifically, what did his criticism mean to you? Elon's fingers drummed on the armrest. It meant I was right about what people think of me, that I'm just a rich guy playing hero, that nothing I do is genuine, that even when I'm trying to save children, it's somehow about ego. Helen leaned back. Is it ever about ego? Of course. I'm human. But it's not only about ego. I have kids. I saw those boys trapped and I thought, what if that was X? What if that was my son? I'd want every engineer on Earth trying to help. Did you tell Vernon that? No. Why not? Because he'd already decided what kind of person I was. Why waste my breath? Helen made a note. Mr. Musk, what would justice look like to you in this situation? Elon stared at the ceiling. I don't know. An acknowledgement that I wasn't just grandstanding, that my team did real work. And what are you willing to give to get that? Elon looked at her directly. What do you mean? Vernon wants an acknowledgement too, that your words hurt him, that they damaged his life. Are you willing to give him that? Elon's jaw tightened. I already apologized. The tweet was deleted. Deleting is not apologizing. Losing a trial is not apologizing. I'm asking, are you willing to look that man in the eye and say I was wrong and I'm sorry? The room was silent except for the distant sound of traffic. I don't know, Elon finally said. Helen met with Vernon the next day. Vernon looked smaller in the chair somehow, like he'd been carrying weight for so long that it had compressed him. Vernon had flown in with him this time. She waited in a cafe down the street, giving him space. Dr. Unsworth, Helen began. What do you want from Elon Musk? An admission that he didn't know me, that he was wrong. And if he gives you that, then what? Vernon blinked. Then maybe I can move on. Can you, though? Will an apology undo 5 years of harassment? Vernon's hands clenched.
No.
But it would mean something. It would mean he sees me as a person, not just an obstacle to his ego. Helen nodded slowly. What if I told you that Elon Musk genuinely tried to help those boys? That his team provided real technical data that could have changed the rescue approach? I read the ProPublica article. I know about the radar. Does that change how you feel about him? Vernon thought carefully. It makes it more complicated. I still think the submarine wouldn't have worked. The cave was too narrow, too unpredictable. But I didn't know about the mapping data. If I had known, I might have said something different to CNN. Like what? Like his team contributed something useful, even if the submarine itself was impractical. Helen leaned forward. Vernon, what would justice look like for you? I want him to understand what he did. Not just say words because lawyers told him to. I want him to understand that calling someone what he called me, it doesn't go away. It sticks. Forever. And what are you willing to give to get that? Vernon frowned. What do I have to give? An acknowledgement that maybe your criticism hurt him too. That maybe dismissing his effort as a PR stunt was harsh, given that his team was doing real work behind the scenes. Vernon's face flushed. I didn't know about the real work. How could I acknowledge something I didn't know existed? You couldn't, but you know now. Are you willing to say, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have spoken differently? Vernon looked out the window. A group of school children walked by on the sidewalk, laughing about something. Life going on indifferent to old men and their grievances. Yes, he said quietly. I could say that. I accept your apology, Vernon said, his voice thick with emotion. And I want to say something too. He turned to address Judge McCormick. Your Honor, may I speak? She nodded. Please do. Vernon faced the courtroom. When I called Elon's submarine a PR stunt, I was exhausted, terrified, and overwhelmed. I'd been awake for days helping coordinate the rescue. I'd watched Saman Kunan die. I was watching boys being pulled from that cave one by one, not knowing if they'd all make it. And then journalists kept asking me about a metal tube that seemed, to my exhausted brain, like a distraction from the real heroes, the divers risking their lives. He looked at Elon. I didn't know about the radar mapping. I didn't know your team had found an alternative route. I didn't know how much genuine effort you'd put into trying to help. I saw what looked like a billionaire showing up for photo opportunities, and I was harsh. Maybe too harsh. Vernon's voice strengthened. But nothing I said justified what you did to me. Criticism doesn't deserve destruction. Disagreement doesn't deserve character assassination. And I hope everyone watching understands that difference. He extended his hand to Elon. But I also hope they understand that people can grow. That mistakes, even terrible ones, can be acknowledged. That apologies, real ones, matter. Elon took his hand. They shook, firmly, and then Vernon pulled him into a brief embrace. Several people in the gallery applauded before catching themselves. You don't applaud in court. But Judge McCormick didn't stop them this time. When Vernon and Elon separated, both men were crying openly. Judge McCormick cleared her throat. Gentlemen, I appreciate the honesty you've both shown today. This court accepts the settlement as presented, with one addition. Both men looked at her. Mr. Musk, you will establish and fund the Saman Kunan Memorial Scholarship at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok. The scholarship will support Thai students studying cave rescue, emergency response and geological safety. The initial endowment will be $10 million, with additional funding as needed to sustain it in perpetuity. Elon nodded immediately. Agreed, Your Honor. Dr. Unsworth, you will serve on the selection committee for this scholarship, reviewing applications and helping choose recipients who embody the values of service and courage that characterize the Thamlong rescue. Vernon nodded. I'd be honored. Furthermore, Judge McCormick continued, both of you will jointly author an article for a major publication. I'll leave you to choose which one, detailing what you've learned from this experience, not about the legal battles, but about the human cost of social media cruelty and the importance of accurate information. I want something that might prevent the next Vernon and Elon from spending 5 years destroying each other. Both men agreed. Then this case is closed. Judge McCormick's gavel came down with finality. Gentlemen, I hope you both find peace. Outside the courthouse. 30 minutes later, Elon and Vernon stood on the courthouse steps, surrounded by reporters but somehow apart from them. The questions came in a barrage. Mr. Musk, do you regret? Vernon, how does it feel? Will you two remain in contact? Vernon held up a hand and surprisingly the crowd quieted. We'll make one statement. Then we're done. He looked at Elon, who nodded. What happened between us, Vernon said, was the result of exhaustion, misunderstanding and pride. It hurt us both. It hurt our families. It distracted from the real story that 13 people came out of a cave alive, because hundreds of people worked together selflessly. Elon continued. We're asking that this be the last story about our conflict. Write instead about Saman Kunan. Write about Rick Stanton and John Volinthan, and Richard Harris and Craig Challen, and the Thai Navy SEALs. Write about the volunteers who cooked food and the engineers who pumped water and the families who never gave up hope. Vernon finished. Write about Titan Shannon and the other boys, who are now young men building their lives. That's the story that matters. They walked down the steps together, side by side toward separate cars but no longer separate in spirit. Marcus Delgado stopped recording. He had everything he needed. The archive was complete. Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, Thailand, March. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the Faculty of Science building, casting geometric patterns across the polished floor. Titan Shannon stood at a display board showing his research project. Predictive modeling for monsoon-related cave flooding in northern Thailand. He was 19 now, finishing his first year study in environmental geology. The gap between his front teeth was gone. He'd gotten braces last year with money his mother had saved. But his smile was the same, bright and genuine. A small crowd gathered around his presentation. Other students, professors, and 3 special visitors who'd flown in for the university's annual Science and Safety Symposium. Vernon Unsworth stood with his hands clasped behind his back, reading Titan's research carefully. He'd aged another year, now 70, but looked healthier somehow. Less burdened. He and Wardnaden had finally married in a small ceremony last December at Wat Rong Kun. The White Temple, with its intricate mirrored surfaces, had sparkled in the winter sun like something from a dream. Beside Vernon stood Elon Musk, dressed more casually than usual, jeans and a plain gray shirt. At 53, he seemed different too, quieter maybe, less frenetic. He'd stepped back slightly from daily operations at Tesla and SpaceX, delegating more to his executive teams. People who knew him said he seemed more present with his children, less consumed by the constant need to prove something. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was there too, having taken a sabbatical from Blue Origin to teach a semester course at Chulalongkorn on geological mapping technology. She'd been invited by the university after her testimony in the Delaware case became public. They wanted someone who understood both the technology and the human cost of difficult decisions. "Mr. Titan," Vernon said in his careful Thai, which had improved considerably over the years, "your research on water flow patterns is excellent. Have you considered mapping the smaller cave systems in Mae Hong Son province? They flood frequently but have never been properly surveyed." Titan nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, sir. That's my goal for next year's research project. Dr. Tanaka has agreed to supervise." Yuki smiled. "We're applying for a grant from the Salmon Kunin Memorial Scholarship Fund, actually, to purchase portable ground-penetrating radar units that students can use in the field." Elon raised an eyebrow. "You're applying to a fund I created?" Yuki grinned. "Yes, and you're on the selection committee, so you'll have to recuse yourself from voting on our application." Everyone laughed. It was easy, comfortable laughter. The kind that happens when old wounds have healed enough that you can acknowledge them without pain. Later that afternoon, the scholarship ceremony took place in the university's main auditorium. 15 students received Salman Kunan Memorial Scholarships for the coming academic year. They studied everything from emergency medicine to civil engineering to environmental science. The common thread was their commitment to safety, rescue and protecting lives in dangerous situations. Waliporn Kunan sat in the front row. She was 61 now, her hair completely gray, wearing the traditional black and white clothing of extended mourning. In Thai culture, some widows wore mourning for years to honor their husbands. She'd chosen to honor Saman this way. When her name was called to present the awards, she walked slowly to the stage. The translator stood beside her as she spoke in Thai to the audience of students, faculty, and guests. "My husband Saman died doing what he believed was right," she said, her voice steady. "He didn't think about awards or recognition. He thought about 12 boys who needed help. That's what I want you to remember when you receive this scholarship. It's not about glory, it's about service." She presented each scholarship certificate personally, shaking hands with the young students who would carry Saman's legacy forward. When Titan Shannon's name was called, he'd received a special research grant from the scholarship fund. Wiliporn held his hands for a long moment. "You were one of the 12, she said in Thai. "My husband died so you could live. Make it count." Titan's eyes filled with tears. "I will. I promise." That evening, a small group gathered at Aruni's house in Mae Sai. The house was slightly bigger now. Aruni had saved money from the trust fund that had been anonymously established. She'd only recently learned, through a slip of Vernon's tongue, that Elon had created it. She'd been furious at first. She didn't want charity, but Vernon had explained it differently. "It's not charity, it's gratitude. Let him be grateful." So Aruni had used the money practically. A small addition to the house. A better sewing machine so she could take on more work. Money set aside for Titan's education beyond what the scholarship covered. Tonight, she'd cooked for everyone. Pad krapao, som tam, tom yum soup, sticky rice. The small house was packed. Titan and 3 of his fellow wild boar survivors who studied at Chulalongkorn, Vernon and Waranan, Elon, Yuki, Somchai Nakarat and his wife, and Rick Stanton, who'd happened to be in Thailand for a cave diving expedition. They ate crowded around a table meant for 6, plates balanced on laps, laughing about the absurdity of 2 of the world's most famous men crammed into a house smaller than most American garages. "This is better than any restaurant," Elon said, and meant it. The food was simple, authentic, made with care. Aruni beamed with pride. Rick Stanton raised his glass of Thai beer. "I'd like to make a toast. To the 12 wild boars and Coach Ek. To Saman Kunan, who gave everything. And to everyone in this room who's managed to turn a tragedy and a conflict into something that actually helps people." Glasses clinked. "Here, here." Somchai spoke up in English, something he'd been practicing. "I want to say something too. In the cave during the rescue, we had a saying. 13 in, 13 out. We focused only on that, not on differences or disagreements, just the mission." He looked at Vernon and Elon. "You two spent 5 years fighting. But now you work together for the scholarship. You wrote the article that many people read. You show that even big mistakes can be fixed if people are willing to try. That matters." Vernon nodded slowly. "We were both wrong in different ways. And we were both right in different ways. The truth was more complicated than either of us wanted to admit." Elon added quietly, And it took us 5 years and multiple courts and a lot of pain to figure out what we could have learned in one honest conversation. I hope other people are smarter than we were. Later, as the evening wound down, Elon and Vernon stood outside under the stars. The night was clear, the Milky Way visible in a way it never was in cities. The sounds of the countryside surrounded them. Insects, distant dogs, the rustle of wind through rice paddies. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd just called me instead of going to CNN? Elon asked. Vernon considered it. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you just ignored what I said instead of tweeting? They both smiled ruefully. We'd have saved a lot of time and money, Vernon said. And lawyers would be poorer, Elon added. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. I'm glad we ended up here though, Vernon said finally. Not glad about the path, but glad about the destination, Elon nodded. The scholarship will help people for generations. The article we wrote has been read by millions. Maybe we prevented some other stupid conflict between people who should have been allies. Maybe, Vernon agreed. Or maybe we just gave lawyers a template for how to drag things out for 5 years. Elon laughed. A real laugh. Not the sharp, defensive sound that people who didn't know him mistook for humor. That too. Inside the house, Titan was showing the other survivors his research on his laptop. Arani was packing leftovers for everyone to take home. Yuki was explaining cave radar technology to Samchai, who was genuinely interested. Waranan and Rick were discussing an upcoming cave expedition. Life continuing, weaving together threads that once seemed permanently severed. Want to know something funny? Elon said. What? I still think that submarine could have worked. Vernon snorted. And I still think it was too rigid for the cave's narrow passages. So we haven't really changed. No, Vernon said. But now we can disagree without destroying each other. That's the difference. Elon extended his hand. To disagreeing respectfully. Vernon shook it. To disagreeing respectfully. Above them, the stars that had watched over Tham Long Cave for millions of years continued their slow rotation. Indifferent to human drama, but somehow, tonight, feeling like witnesses to something small but significant. Two men who'd spent 5 years as enemies had become something harder and more valuable. Complicated friends who understood that truth was messy, that pride was dangerous, and that sometimes the hardest journey was the one from anger to understanding. The cave had taught them that. The cave and 13 survivors who reminded them what actually mattered. ProPublica headquarters, New York City, same day. Marcus Delgado sat at his desk, finalizing his article. It had taken him 6 years to document this story from beginning to end. From that first pedo guy tweet to today's scholarship ceremony, the headline read, From Cave to Courtroom, How Two Men Turned a Rescue into a War, Then Found Peace. His editor Raj Khatri leaned over his shoulder. It's good, Marcus. Really good. You ready to publish? Marcus nodded. I think this might be the most important thing I've written. Not because they're famous, but because it shows something real about how we communicate now. How fast things escalate. How hard it is to climb back from cruelty. And how it's possible anyway, if people try. Then let's publish it. Marcus hit the button. The article went live. Within hours, it was trending. Not because of the conflict, people were tired of conflict, but because of the resolution. Because in a world that felt increasingly divided, here was proof that even the worst mistakes could be acknowledged, forgiven, and turned into something constructive. The comments section, usually toxic, was surprisingly thoughtful. People shared their own stories of reconciliation, of apologies given and received, of understanding that took years to reach. Maybe, Marcus thought, that was the real story. Not that two men fought, but that they found their way back, and that their journey might light the way for others. And that was the end of this story. A story about pride, pain, and ultimately, redemption. About two men who let anger consume 5 years of their lives, before finally finding their way back to what truly mattered, the 13 lives saved in that cave, and the legacy of courage left behind. We'd love to know, where are you listening from? Drop your location in the comments below. Are you joining us from Thailand, where this incredible rescue took place? From Delaware, where justice was finally served, or somewhere else entirely? We read every comment and love connecting with our global community. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. It helps us reach more people who need to hear stories about forgiveness, accountability, and second chances. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotionally engaging true stories like this one. We bring you tales of human resilience, Unexpected twists and the power of redemption that you won't find anywhere else. And here's the most important part. Share this video with your friends and family. In a world that often feels divided, stories like Vernon and Elon's remind us that even the deepest conflicts can be healed when people choose understanding over pride. Spread this message of kindness and awareness. Someone in your life might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening. Until next time, remember, the hardest apologies are often the most important ones. Stay kind, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next story. The joint session was scheduled for September. Elon and Vernon sat across from each other for the first time since the Los Angeles trial. The coffee table between them felt like an ocean. Helen sat to the side, present but not intrusive. The rules are simple, Helen said. Each of you will tell your story of July 2018. The other person will listen without interruption. No rebuttals, no arguments. Just listening. Then we'll talk. Agreed? Both men nodded. Vernon, you'll go first. Vernon took a breath. His voice was shaky at first, then steadied. I spent 7 years exploring Tham Luang. It wasn't just a hobby, it was my purpose. I loved that cave. When those boys went missing, it felt personal. I knew every chamber, every passage. I guided the best divers in the world through routes I'd mapped by hand. He paused. When you arrived with your submarine, it felt like someone showing up to a funeral with a carnival. The media suddenly cared more about your machine than about the Thai SEALs who were risking their lives. I was exhausted. I was terrified those boys would die, and I lashed out at you on camera. Vernon looked directly at Elon. I called your effort a PR stunt. I didn't know about the radar mapping. I didn't know your team had found an alternative route. I only saw what looked like a billionaire getting attention while real rescuers did the dangerous work. I was wrong to dismiss everything you did. I should have been more careful with my words. Elon's expression was unreadable. But then, Vernon continued, his voice harder now. You called me a pedophile. In front of the world, you hired investigators to dig up dirt on me. You sent emails calling me a child rapist. And for 5 years, that's what people think when they hear my name. Not that I helped save 13 lives, that Elon Musk called me a pedophile. Vernon's voice cracked. I want my life back. I want to be remembered for the right reasons. And I can't have that until you truly understand what you took from me. The room was silent. Helen turned to Elon. Your turn. Elon stared at his hands for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than usual, almost vulnerable. I watched the news coverage obsessively. Those 12 boys and their coach, I couldn't stop thinking about them. My son X was just weeks old. Sleep deprivation was making everything feel raw. I kept imagining X at 13, trapped in darkness, and it broke something in me. He looked up. So I did what I always do. I tried to engineer a solution. We built that submarine in 72 hours. Real engineers, real work, real tests. We flew it to Thailand. And yes, maybe part of me wanted to prove that Silicon Valley could solve impossible problems. But it wasn't only ego. I genuinely believed we could help. Elon's hands clenched. Then you called it a PR stunt. And it felt like you were saying I didn't actually care about those kids. That everything I did was fake. That hurt more than I want to admit. So I hurt you back. In the cruelest way I could think of. His voice dropped. I called you something unspeakable. I doubled down when I should have apologized. I hired investigators to justify what I'd said instead of admitting I was wrong. I let my pride destroy your reputation because mine felt attacked. Elon met Vernon's eyes. I took 5 years of your life. I made people question everything about you. And I did it because I couldn't handle criticism. That's the truth. And I'm ashamed of it. Helen let the silence sit for a moment. Then she said, what if you're both right? Both men looked at her. What if Elon genuinely tried to help, and Vernon genuinely saved lives, and the media oversimplified everything, and you both said things you regret? What if the real villain isn't either of you? It's the way we demand heroes and villains instead of just recognizing complicated humans doing their best in terrible circumstances. Vernon's eyes were wet. Elon's jaw was clenched, but he nodded slowly. There's someone, Helen said carefully, who both of you should meet. Her name is Aroni Chanin. Her son Titan was one of the 12 boys in that cave. I've contacted her through the Thai embassy. She's willing to video call with you both. Elon straightened. She'd talk to us? She said she's been watching this legal battle for years. She wants to tell you both something, and after that, if you're willing, I can arrange for you to visit Thailand together. To go back to where this all started. Vernon and Elon looked at each other. I'll go, Vernon said. Elon nodded. So will I. Bangkok, Thailand. Video call October. The laptop screen flickered, then stabilized. Aruni Channon appeared, sitting in a modest living room with cream-colored walls and a small Buddhist shrine visible in the background. She was 43 now, her hair streaked with gray she hadn't bothered to dye. Beside her sat Titan, 18 years old, tall and lean, wearing a university t-shirt from Chulalongkorn. Helen handled the introductions carefully. A translator sat off-screen ready to help, though Titan's English was good enough to assist his mother. Mrs. Channon, thank you for speaking with us, Helen said. These two men have been in conflict for 5 years over what happened at Tham Luang. I thought perhaps you could offer a perspective they haven't considered. Aruni spoke in Thai. Titan translated, his voice steady. My mother says she doesn't understand why two men who both cared about her son are fighting each other. Elon shifted in his chair. Vernon looked down. Aruni continued. And Titan translated. When Titan went into that cave, I thought I would never see him again. For 9 days, I didn't know if he was alive or dead. I prayed to every spirit I could name. I made promises to Buddha that if my son came home, I would spend my life being grateful. Her voice grew stronger, more emotional. Titan's translation kept pace. On July 2nd, when they found the boys alive, I collapsed. I couldn't breathe. My son was alive. That was the only thing that mattered in the entire world. She looked directly into the camera, her eyes finding first Elon, then Vernon. Then I watched you two fight. On television. In newspapers. In courts. And I kept thinking. Why? Both of you tried to help. One of you brought the best divers. One of you brought technology and ideas. Both of you cared enough to do something when you could have done nothing. Tears ran down Aroni's face. But instead of being grateful that my son is alive, you spent 5 years hurting each other. Do you understand how that feels to watch? Saman Kunan died in that cave. He gave his life. And you two are fighting over words and pride and who deserves credit. The screen was silent except for Aroni's quiet crying. Vernon spoke first, his voice breaking. Mrs. Channon, I'm sorry. You're right. We lost sight of what mattered. Elon nodded slowly. Your son is alive because of brave people who risked everything. That's what matters. Nothing else. Aruni wiped her eyes and spoke again. Titan translated. My mother wants you to come to Thailand. Both of you. Together. She wants you to meet Titan. She wants you to see the cave. She says maybe if you stand where we stood you'll remember why any of this happened at all. Chiang Rai Province. Thailand, November. The flight from San Francisco to Bangkok took 17 hours. Vernon flew from Thailand's capital up to Chiang Rai, a short domestic hop. Elon took a private jet but arrived at the same small airport within an hour of Vernon. They'd agreed to travel together from there. The car ride was awkward at first. They sat in the back of a van driven by a local guide, Helen between them, the landscape rolling past, rice paddies, small villages, mountains green with jungle. The rainy season had ended. The sky was clear blue. I haven't been back since the rescue, Vernon said quietly, staring out the window. I thought it would be too hard. Elon nodded. I've never been to the cave itself, just the forward camp. I left before the rescue finished. Why? Elon considered the question. Because it was clear my submarine wasn't needed. And staying felt like I was waiting around for credit. So I left. Vernon turned to look at him. Did you feel useless? Yes, Elon admitted. Completely useless. Which is not a feeling I handle well. Vernon almost smiled. I noticed. Maysai District, Aruni's home. The house was smaller than Elon expected. 2 rooms visible from the street. Laundry hanging on a line. The neighbor's rooster strutting in the dirt yard. A far cry from his mansions in Los Angeles and Texas. He felt suddenly embarrassed by the wealth he carried so casually. Aruni greeted them at the door, hands pressed together in a traditional Y greeting. Vernon returned it naturally. 7 years in Thailand had taught him the customs. Elon copied the gesture awkwardly but sincerely. Inside, Titan sat at a small table with tea already poured. He stood when they entered, tall and polite, shaking hands Western style. "Thank you for coming," he said in careful English. "It means much to my mother." They sat. The chairs were mismatched, the table scarred with age, but everything was clean, cared for. This was a home where people worked hard for what little they had. Aruni spoke, and Titan translated. "My mother wants to tell you about the 12 days Titan was in the cave." For the next hour, Aruni shared her story. The terror of not knowing. The other mothers, all camping outside the cave, holding each other through the rain. The moment she heard the boys were alive, the impossible wait while divers brought them out one by one, the relief when she finally held Titan again. "I thought I understood fear before," Titan translated for his mother. "But that was fear that breaks you and remakes you. I will never be the same person I was before those 12 days. She looked at Vernon. "You helped bring my son home. The divers you guided, they are heroes. I think of them every day." Then she looked at Elon. "You tried to help my son. Even if your machine did not go into the cave, you tried. That means something. Intention matters." Elon's eyes were wet. "I wish we could have done more." Aruni spoke firmly, and Titan translated with equal emphasis. "You did what you could do. That is enough. What is not enough is fighting afterward. Fighting doesn't honor the rescue. It dishonors it." Vernon reached across the table and, after a moment's hesitation, placed his hand on Elon's shoulder. "She's right. We've dishonored it." Elon covered Vernon's hand briefly with his own. "Yes. We have." Tham Luang Nang Non Cave. Late afternoon. The cave entrance had changed since 2018. It was now a memorial site, carefully maintained. A statue of Saman Kunan stood at the entrance, bronze and solemn, his face captured in determination. Plaques listed the names of everyone who'd participated in the rescue. Thai Navy SEALs, international divers, volunteers, government officials. Elon's name wasn't on the list. Neither was his team. He stared at the plaques for a long moment. Vernon stood beside him. "Does it bother you?" Vernon asked. "Not being listed?" Elon shook his head slowly. "No, we didn't earn it. They did." He touched the statue's base. "He did." Vernon nodded. "Saman Kunan. He was extraordinary. Former SEAL, volunteered to come back. He left his wife to help, and he never came home." They stood in silence. Aruni and Titan approached, along with Helen. A small group of locals had gathered. People who'd been there in 2018, volunteers, family members of the rescued boys. Word had spread that the two foreign men from the news were here. One man stepped forward. Older, weathered, with kind eyes. He spoke in Thai. Titan translated, "This is Mr. Sumchai, the Navy SEAL you heard testify. He wanted to meet you both." Sumchai shook their hands, his grip firm. He spoke, and Titan translated. "He says the rescue was chaos, 1,000 decisions per hour. Nobody had time to think about credit or recognition. Everyone just did their part. He says you both did your part too, even if the world didn't see all of it." Elon bowed his head slightly. "Thank you for your service. For risking your life." Sumchai replied through Titan. "It was my honor. Those boys deserved every chance to live." Vernon asked a question in halting Thai, and Sumchai responded. Titan translated. Mr. Vernon asked if he could go into the first chamber. Mr. Sumchai says yes. It's safe now. They have lights and walkways for visitors. Vernon turned to Elon. "Will you come with me?" Elon hesitated. The cave mouth looked dark, foreboding. He'd never been comfortable in enclosed spaces. Strange for someone who built rockets and tunnels, but true nonetheless. But this mattered. "Yes," he said. Inside the cave, the first chamber was vast, cathedral-like. Electric lights had been installed, illuminating limestone formations that looked like frozen waterfalls. The air was cool, damp, smelling of earth and stone. Their footsteps echoed on the metal walkway. Deeper in, past the tourist area, the cave narrowed. The lights ended. Sumchai provided flashlights. The darkness beyond their beams was absolute. "This is where the water came in," Vernon said quietly, pointing to watermarks on the stone walls, 3 meters high. It happened so fast. The boys ran deeper, looking for high ground. They walked in silence, the flashlight beams dancing across ancient rock. Elon touched the cave wall, cold, solid, indifferent to human drama. They were here for 18 days, Elon said. In darkness, hungry, terrified, but together, Vernon added. Kojak kept them calm, taught them to meditate, told them help would come. They reached a spot where the walkway ended. Beyond was water, still and black, reflecting their lights like a mirror. This was as far as tourists could go. Beyond this, the cave became a maze of flooded passages and tight squeezes, the domain of expert divers only. The boys were 4 kilometers that way, Vernon said, pointing into the darkness. Past sections where you could barely fit a person. In water so murky you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Elon stared into the black water. How did they do it? The divers. Courage, skill, desperation. They sedated the boys, actually knocked them unconscious with ketamine, then dragged them through underwater tunnels in the dark. It was insane. It shouldn't have worked, but it did, because they didn't give up. Because Sam and Kunan died to give them a chance. Because everyone involved decided 13 lives were worth any risk. Elon turned to Vernon. Standing there in the cave where it all began, the years of anger and legal battles felt small, meaningless. I'm sorry, Elon said, for what I called you, for the investigators, for everything. You deserved better. Vernon extended his hand. I'm sorry too, for dismissing your effort, for not understanding how much you genuinely cared. They shook hands. Then, impulsively, Vernon pulled Elon into a brief hug. Elon stiffened, then relaxed into it. When they separated, both men's eyes were wet. Behind them, Aroni spoke softly in Thai. Titan translated, My mother says the cave has forgiven you both. Now you must forgive yourselves. They stood together in the darkness, surrounded by stone that had witnessed millions of years of history. Their conflict was just a moment in that vast timeline. But in that moment, something shifted. The anger that had defined 5 years began, finally, to dissolve. Delaware Court of Chancery, Wilmington. The courtroom was more packed than it had been, even for the first hearing. Word had leaked that something unusual was about to happen. Reporters from around the world filled every available seat. The gallery overflowed into the standing room section at the back. Marcus Delgado, now 24 and a junior reporter at ProPublica working under Raj Khatri, stood against the back wall with his phone recording audio. He'd been following this story since that first tweet in 2018. 6 years of documentation, thousands of screenshots, hundreds of articles. He felt like he was watching the final chapter of something that had consumed a significant portion of his adult life. Judge Kathleen McCormick entered at precisely 9 a.m. Everyone rose. She looked more relaxed than she had at previous hearings. A good sign, perhaps, that the settlement she'd ordered had borne fruit. Please be seated, she said, settling into her chair. We're here today to finalize the settlement agreement between Vernon Unsworth and Elon Musk. Both parties have submitted signed documents indicating they've reached a private resolution. However, given that the original offense was public, this court requires a public component to the settlement. She looked directly at Elon. Mr. Musk, as agreed in your settlement, you will now deliver a formal apology to Dr. Unsworth in this courtroom, on the record, to be made part of the public docket. Are you prepared to proceed? Elon stood. Yes, Your Honor. Vernon sat at the plaintiff's table. He'd told Wood he didn't need to be there, that he'd already forgiven Elon privately in Thailand. But Wood had insisted, the world needs to see this. Not for you, for everyone else who's been hurt by careless words from powerful people. Worden sat in the gallery, directly behind Vernon. She wore a simple blue dress and held a small clutched purse in her lap. Her face was calm but watchful. In another section of the gallery sat several unexpected attendees. Rick Stanton and John Volinthen, the British divers who'd found the boys, had flown in from the UK. Dr. Richard Harris, the Australian anesthetist, sat beside them. They'd come to witness what they considered the true end of the Tham Loang story. And on a video screen at the side of the courtroom, connected via satellite, were faces from Thailand. Somchai Nakarat, in his uniform. Aruni and Titan Channon, sitting in the same room where they'd video called months before. Commander Arpakorn Yukong Kao, now retired, and several of the other wild boar survivors, young men now, gathered together. Dr. Yuki Tanaka sat in the gallery too, having taken personal leave from Blue Origin to attend. She'd carried guilt for 5 years about whether she'd done enough with the radar data. Today felt like closure. Elon reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a handwritten letter. The courtroom went absolutely silent. This wasn't the scripted apology his lawyers had prepared. This was something else. Alex Spiro's eyes widened slightly. This wasn't what they'd rehearsed. But he didn't object. Some things were bigger than legal strategy. Your Honor, Elon began, his voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of emotion. Before I apologize, I want to read something. Ms. Waliporn Kunan, the widow of Thai Navy SEAL Saman Kunan who died during the rescue, wrote this letter to me when I visited Thailand last November. She gave me permission to share it today. He unfolded the letter. His hands trembled slightly. The translator for the Thai attendees on screen began translating into Thai in real time. Elon read, "Dear Mr. Musk, my husband Saman believed every life is worth saving. He didn't care about credit or recognition. He didn't care about newspapers or fame. He cared about those 12 boys and their coach. When he died placing oxygen tanks in the cave, his last words to me that morning were, 'If I don't come back, remember I did something that mattered.'" Elon's voice caught. He paused, swallowed, continued. "When I heard about your argument with Mr. Unsworth, I felt sad. Two men who wanted to help those children were hurting each other instead of honoring the rescue. Saman would say, 'The cave doesn't care about egos, the water doesn't care about pride, only courage and compassion matter. I hope you both find peace. The boys are safe. That's what my husband died for. Please don't let his sacrifice be shadowed by anger.'" Several people in the courtroom were crying openly now. Judge McCormick blinked rapidly, maintaining her composure but clearly moved. Elon carefully folded the letter and set it on the defense table. Then he turned to face Vernon directly. Not addressing the court, not speaking to the cameras, speaking human to human. "Dr. Unsworth," Elon said, his voice dropping quieter, making everyone lean forward to hear. "In July 2018, I watched 12 boys and their coach trapped in a cave, and I wanted desperately to help. I have children. I couldn't imagine their terror, their hunger, the darkness they endured. So I did what I do. I tried to engineer a solution." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "My team built a submarine in 72 hours. We tested it. We flew it to Thailand. We also brought ground-penetrating radar and mapped the cave system. Finding an alternative route that Thai commanders ultimately decided not to pursue, and they made the right call. Every decision was about saving those lives." Elon's hands clenched at his sides. "But when you criticized the submarine on CNN, when you called it a PR stunt, something broke in me. It felt like you were saying I didn't actually care about those children. That my effort was hollow. That I was incapable of genuine human compassion, and that hurt more than I knew how to handle." His voice grew harder, more honest. "So I hurt you back. I called you something unspeakable. I called you a pedophile. Not in those exact words, but everyone knew what pedo guy meant. I said it to 22 million people. Then, when I should have immediately apologized and deleted it, I doubled down. I sent more tweets. I hired private investigators to justify what I'd said. I tried to prove you were what I'd called you, even though deep down I knew it wasn't true." Elon's eyes were wet now. "I took the fact that you're a British man in Thailand with a younger girlfriend, and I weaponized the ugliest stereotype I could find. I knew the internet would run with it. I knew it would destroy your reputation, and I did it anyway because I was angry and exhausted and my pride was wounded." He took a step closer to Vernon. "For 5 years you've lived with the consequences of my cruelty. Every Google search of your name brings up my accusation. Your relationship was nearly destroyed. You received death threats. You couldn't return to the cave exploration community you loved without people whispering. And all of it is my fault." Elon's voice broke completely. "Vernon, you deserved none of that. You were a cave expert who helped guide the divers who saved 13 lives. You spent 7 years mapping Tham Luang out of pure love for its beauty. You volunteered immediately when the boys went missing. You were a hero, and I turned you into a villain because I couldn't handle criticism." The courtroom was so quiet that the sound of someone's phone vibrating in the gallery was clearly audible. Judge McCormick didn't even reprimand them. "I can't give you back 5 years," Elon continued. "I can't undo the damage to your reputation. I can't erase the harassment or the pain. But I can tell you, and everyone watching, that I was completely, utterly, inexcusably wrong." He faced the courtroom fully now, addressing not just Vernon but the world. Vernon Unsworth is not a pedophile. He never was. I made that up in a moment of anger. And I tried to justify it instead of admitting I'd made a terrible mistake. The private investigator I hired found nothing. Because there was nothing to find. Vernon is simply a man who loved a cave, helped save children, and then had his life destroyed by a billionaire who couldn't handle being criticized. Elon turned back to Vernon. I'm sorry. Truly. Deeply. Completely sorry. You deserved better from me. Those 12 boys and Coach Eck deserved better. Saman Kunan's memory deserved better. And I failed all of you because I put my ego before the truth. Vernon stood slowly. This wasn't part of the script either. Wood put a hand on his arm, but Vernon shook his head gently. He walked around the table until he stood directly in front of Elon.